Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. The government says Budget 2021 aims to give hope and confidence to people during the pandemic. The High Court's granted an injunction against former Debenhams employees, including 2 Waterford men. The jury in the trial of a Waterford pensioner accused of possessing child pornography will begin their deliberations this afternoon in Waterford. And in sport, the Irish under-21 team can take a massive step towards qualification for next year's European Championship finals later. The Finance Minister, Paschal Donohoe, is about to take to his feet in the Dáil to outline Budget 2021. It'll be the biggest budget in the history of the state as the government borrows millions to meet the cost of COVID and Brexit. Our political correspondent, Sean Defoe, explains what it'll mean for your pocket.
There are a few areas where people will notice a direct impact. Firstly, income tax rates are not going to change either up or down in this budget, but there are a number of areas that will hit your pocket, namely around motoring. A €7.50 a tonne increase in carbon tax will hike the cost of fuel. Filling a tank of diesel will cost about €1.50 more and a tank of petrol €1.30. There will be 90 cent extra on a bag of coal, 20 cent on a bale of briquettes, and home heating oil is also set to increase in price. This will be offset for the most vulnerable by increases in the living alone allowance and the fuel allowance. Changes to VRT will make buying a polluting car more expensive, and changes to motor tax will mean those with older or more polluting cars will end up paying somewhere between €10 and €50 more a year, although 90% of people won't be impacted by the motor tax changes. Full-time third-level students will all be given a €250 cash sum by the government to help them this year, and the cost of a pack of cigarettes will go up 50 cent, but alcohol will be left unchanged. In short, if you smoke and drive a big old car, this budget is going to cost you. But the reality is that despite this being the largest budget in the history of the state, it won't produce a massive change for most people, something that emphasises the cost of just standing still in a COVID-stricken world. Sean Defoe at the Convention Centre in Dublin.
Brendan Tuig is Tax Director with MK Brazil in Waterford. He says he can't see anyone having more after this budget.
I can see how you think they're going to have more, but inflation or stell taxes and things will probably eat away at it. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I don't think anyone's expecting a big giveaway this budget. I think everyone's kind of expecting that, look, if they come out more or less the same as they went in, they'll be very happy. To be fair now, I don't think anyone's expecting that they're going to be richer. Not in this environment or these times. I think certainly people will be looking for long term. Look, bear with us for this year or next year, but this is what we're going to do in years 3, 4 and 5. I think people will settle for that. I think if they come out more or less the same now, but with some kind of plan to improve as the world improves, I think people will be happy.
Stay tuned to WLOR-FM this afternoon for the latest on the budget. We'll also be updating our social media channels and website on the news as it happens. The High Court has granted an injunction against former Debenhams employees. The Joint Provisional Liquidators sought injunctions against 3 individuals, including 2 Waterford men. It means the former workers can no longer prevent stock being removed from 11 stores across the country. They want a redundancy package of 2 weeks' salary per year of service. Injunctions were sought and granted this morning against Stephen Troy of Fairfield Close in Belvedere Manor in Waterford, as well as Dennis O'Brien, Sunrise Crescent in Browns Road. Also, injunctions were granted against Carol Bridgman from Ballyvolane in Cork and any persons acting in concert with them or having notice of the application. Former shop steward in Waterford, Michelle Gavin, spoke to Damien Tiernan on Daisha Today a few minutes after the news broke.
We can picket, all right, but we're not allowed to do effective picketing, if that's what you want to call it. So we're just literally allowed to stand there and ask the drivers not to pass our picket, and that's basically all we're allowed to do.
She says they've been picketing for 6 months.
I'm actually shocked. But look, we kind of thought that's what would happen. We're all down on our pickets here this morning again, and we just did a small little protest this morning for the support of those that are in court this morning that were already named. Some of the girls just got very upset. You know, it is kind of really, we've been here for 6 months and it's very, very hard. Just feel now at this stage, you know, it's possibly the end in sight for us. So we'll just have to take each day as it comes now. But when you're fighting the system, it drives it home to you. If they're not willing, you're just, it's really hard.
The trial of a pensioner accused of possessing child pornography is coming to a close in Waterford today. 75-year-old Oliver O'Grady is before the Circuit Court, charged with one count of possessing a video of an underage girl engaging in a sexual act. Owen Dalton reports.
It's alleged that Oliver O'Grady held the video in his possession on a date between 14 December 2015 and March 2016 at his residence at St Othran's Place, South Parade in Waterford City. The case arose when a former housemate of O'Grady reported him to Gardaí after discovering sexually explicit material on a computer he had loaned him. The prosecution told the jury this morning that it was clear and obvious that the downloaded video was that of child pornography and that the female appearing in it was younger than the age of 17. Barrister Conor O'Doherty also pointed to the internet searches made by a user of the computer. In one instance, someone had searched for the Latin version of the religious hymn the Magnificat and then minutes later had searched for males in underwear. He said this was relevant as the defence had previously admitted that Mr O'Grady has a significant interest in religion. Making his case, defence barrister Sean Rafter said there were still doubts on whether the accused used the computer on the date the video was downloaded, as the residence in St Othran's Terrace was a transient household made up of tenants who were often coming and going. He added that it made little sense that Mr O'Grady later returned the computer despite the prosecution's case that the defendant knew there was child pornography on the device. The charge, which O'Grady denies, is contrary to Section 6 of the Child Trafficking and Pornography Act and carries a sentence of up to 5 years. The jury will begin their deliberations later today.
Every county bordering Northern Ireland now has a 14-day COVID-19 incidence rate of more than 100. It comes as the Stormont Executive holds an emergency meeting to discuss potential restrictions. Cavan, Donegal and Monaghan have the three highest 14-day incidence rates in the country, while Leitrim and Louth have rates of more than 100. The border counties could move to level 4 if a 6 weeks lockdown is imposed in Northern Ireland. Health Minister Stephen Donnelly says the government won't be speculating about what could happen in the north.
We had a very positive meeting, one of these so-called quads, yesterday evening. Minister Coveney, myself, the First Minister, Deputy First Minister and Secretary of State. So the situation in the north is very serious, obviously. Their growth rate is currently several times higher than ours, so we're watching the situation very carefully.
An additional 4 cases of COVID-19 for Waterford were included in yesterday's figures. It means that 55 cases have been confirmed here within the space of a week. Waterford's 14-day incidence fell slightly and is now the lowest in the country. However, it's double what it was a week ago. The rate is now 61 cases per 100,000 population. The national rate is 67.8. A member of Waterford's Older People's Council says there's a lot of anger and frustration about the COVID-19 restrictions. Bernadette Phillips spoke to Damien Tiernan on Data Today.
It's the lack of consultation that's been had with older people in relation to this right from the beginning. And if we look at the situation now, we look at, again, level 3, which means that there's no visiting in nursing homes, for example. So basically, they're in level 5 because restrictions are that hard on them. And so none of this is being consulted in relation to older people and with them. And that would be something I think that they're really calling for.
And Apple will launch its new range of iPhones this evening. It's expected to announce 4 devices with the traditional Pro and Pro Max joined by a smaller smartphone. US media is reporting the prices could range from €700 for the mini iPhone to €1,100 for the Pro Max edition. The price and release dates will be confirmed this evening.
Make the smart play with Virgin Media. Check out their smart home packages at Virgin Media, George's Street, Waterford.
Sponsors of the sports news on WLR.
Starting with soccer, where the Irish under-21 team can take a massive step towards qualification for next year's European Championship finals later. Jim Crawford's side are top of Group 1 and 3 points ahead of Italy, who they face this afternoon in Pisa. Waterford's Lee O'Connor is part of the Ireland squad. Italy will field their under-20s players after a number of positive coronavirus tests hit their squad. Ireland have never qualified for a tournament at under-21 level, and assistant manager Waterford's John O'Shea believes it would be a massive achievement.
If they did experience a major tournament at under-21 level, it'd be the first time for Ireland, and major tournaments are where you get amazing experiences. I'm obviously fortunate to do it with Ireland underage and senior level, and it really is something that develops you as a player too. So if we can be that group can be the first lads involved in that, that'd be brilliant.
That game kicks off at 4 o'clock Irish time. The senior team are flying to Helsinki today without the unnamed player who last night tested positive for COVID-19 for the second time. Stephen Kenny's called up no replacements to his squad ahead of tomorrow night's Nations League match against Finland. Colin Healy's Cork City will be hoping to pick up a crucial 3 points later in their bid to avoid the drop from the SSE Electricity Premier Division. The Leesiders welcome Dundalk to Turner's Cross at 7:45, with the hosts currently 7 points from safety at the foot of the table. In horse racing news, Dungarvan jockey Sean Houlihan has recorded his second winner of the afternoon at Hereford when 11-2 shot Night Commander recorded victory in the second race. He also steered 25-1 outsider Strawfan Jack to victory in the opener. There's a 7-race card at Punchestown today with the first off 20-2. There are 8 races in Cork with the first going to post at 5-2. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Waterford. WLR asks you to keep Waterford safe by reducing your social contacts.